What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What's going on, everyone? I hope everyone is doing extremely well. I am most certainly doing well today. We actually have quite a bit of stuff to talk about in today's stream. Believe it or not, there's actually a lot of news going on in Major League Baseball, and it feels really, really weird to say that. Sorry, let me just get my notes out. I've completely forgotten inside of here. But yeah, we actually got a fair amount of stuff to talk about in regards to Major League Baseball. There has honestly been a fair amount of news coming in, and it is unbelievably shocking that we have this much to talk about in today's stream. We are going to be going over Buck Showalter and Billy Epler's press conference yesterday in regards to the coaching staff meeting. We are also going to be going over your guys' comments as always. The CBA lockout meeting just finished up, so we will be touching on that. And of course, your guys' comments, questions, and concerns. But before we get into all that, please, everyone, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, what are you doing? Please hit that subscribe button. It's free. Turn on those post notifications. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding anything around the Mets, the Dodgers, the Rangers, whatever Major League Baseball news is going on, please feel free to drop it below. You know, we got a lot of stuff going on. I did upload a video yesterday which did speak about 3 pitchers that I think the New York Mets can definitely go after. So please, if you guys can, feel free to check that out. As always, and yeah, I guess let's stop wasting any time and let's take a dive right into it. So, as we know, the New York Mets manager Buck Showalter and Billy Epler both gave one of their first press conferences together in person. I guess when they were next to each other. The past couple press conferences they had, I'm guessing they were on Zoom and they were online. And you know that trust me, I've dealt with Zoom for over years now. It's boring. I want to see these guys talking in person. So it's really good to see. It's really good to see. I guess the biggest thing is the Mets have their coaching staff set. That's really important. But pretty much some key takeaways, I guess you could say, that we observed during the Showalter and Epler conference. Starting at the first thing is obviously all the reporters were asking questions and they answered them greatly. Showalter pretty much stated that the first thing, I guess, is what's going on with spring training. Spring training is pitchers and catchers are less than a month away from reporting. Spring training, the first game is a little like 33 days, 34 days away. So they were asked about that, the possibilities with the lockout, what can go wrong with them. And they pretty much stated that they are ready for any scenario thrown at them in terms of spring training. If spring training starts on time, which I will say is very unlikely, they're ready for that. If spring training isn't, they're willing to be flexible. They're willing to go down there and wait for a little bit and I guess play things out. Buck Showalter and Billy Epler will be leaving to come down here, and I say down here because I live in Florida. They will be coming down to Florida on Wednesday, so tomorrow. So that's really good. They're going to check out the spring training sites. Obviously, they've never, they're new management, new GM, so they have never, been down to Port St. Lucie, at least to my knowledge, as, Mets affiliates. So that's really good to see. So that was spoken about. Showalter briefly, obviously, if you're talking about the coaching staff, analytics are definitely going to come up. And Billy Epler, my apologies. Buck Showalter stated that he is very excited, and he has really thrived really well so far with this analytical department. And he said that it's exemplary what they've shown. So I think that's really good. Buck Showalter obviously had a little bit of a different relationship with analytics in Baltimore. The analytical team in Baltimore at the time was not very good. And it's obviously a huge, huge, huge upgrade than, I guess, what he is now going to get. So that's really good. I'm excited to see that. I guess, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he could have a good relationship. Seems right now he's working with analytics well. And then I guess continuing on with the coaching staff, Billy Epler said that that it was a combined effort in hiring the guys. It wasn't just, he says this. No, it was a combined effort. There was a mix between Sandy Alderson, Billy Epler, Buck Showalter, I guess the big three, if you want to call them that, really, all combined together on who exactly they want to hire. It's not just, Buck wants to hire this guy. No, it was a collaborative effort. And obviously, I think when it came to that, they interviewed plenty of guys. I think the most important thing was the hitting coach. We saw the hitting from the Mets. We've went over it every single stream so far this offseason, so we're not really going to touch on it because we spoke about the hitting mentality for so long on the stream, and honestly, let's just no longer talk about that. But yeah, I mean, really interesting. Like they said it was a collaborative effort in bringing in Eric Chavez. We know that they spoke with Yankees general manager Cashman in regards to if he'd be a good fit. They both seemed on board. And obviously, the biggest reason they wanted him was because of experience. And I guess that kind of makes sense if you have a hitting coach as well as a pitching coach. I mean, the Mets pitching coach, Jeremy Hefner, he was a pitcher. He played for the Mets. About a decade ago, I believe he retired 2012, 2011, perhaps. But I think, experience and coaching goes a long way. And I'm not talking managerial experience or coaching experience. I'm talking about as a player. Maybe Showalter is different because he's much older and the game's evolved so much since he, I guess, would have played. But I mean, Eric Chavez, middle-aged. I mean, same thing, I guess, for Jeremy Hefner, is that they know what it's like to play the game. And that was one big thing. And I'm guessing, with a lot of other coaches, they may not have that understanding. So they know what it's like to, go 0 for 4 in the batter's box. And, I guess, as Epler stated, have sympathy versus empathy. So I bet, that really did, pop out in my head really quickly. And that, made me think, good point there. Otherwise, I mean, it was really good. They were also speaking about the draft this season. We know that last year's draft did not turn out super well for the Mets. We know that last year they built majority of their draft on Kumar Rocker. Didn't go very well. We all know what happened, but let's not talk about that anymore. So they're excited. They're going to be getting 6-round picks. My apologies. They're going to be getting 6 guys in the first 2 rounds. So that is going to be huge for this team. We know that there's a lot of outfields and there's a lot of pitching on this year's draft. So the New York Mets are definitely going to have to take advantage of that. The minor leagues right now are, in terms of the Mets minor league system, they are very limited on pitching as well as outfield. And even at the major league level, I mean, this season we saw outfield was I guess really dead to an extent. And, we saw the Mets outfield, during the injuries. So that's going to be important. And otherwise, I mean, that's really it with the meeting. We know that they said that Epler stated that he really feels really close, that this team may have an actual shot and that they're very close to a playoff contendership. And they're arguably a playoff team right now. They're able to contend for a playoff spot. That obviously means they're still going to make moves. They said they would like to add on to this roster a little bit. So I think that's going to be something. And I guess the most important thing, and the reason I said this for last is because this is probably going to be my longest explanation. And pretty much that is, they were saying how much the clubhouse has benefited with these new acquisitions and coaches. So whether that's Jeremy Barnes, whether that's Wayne Kirby, whether that's Joey Cora, is that, a lot of these guys are familiar with some of these players and they have institutional knowledge with the game and dealing with guys like this. So I think that's really important. I guess they acknowledged last season, they didn't really specifically say it, but they pretty much stated it without saying it, is that last season, I mean, it was just, it was chaos last season with how the clubhouse was ran. And I mean, a lot of that was because you brought in some new guys, whether that was Lindor, whether that was Baez at the trade deadline, whether that was, James McCann, Trevor May, whoever, I guess. And obviously this offseason, they acknowledged and they were cognizant that, they brought in some new guys, Escobar, Marte, Canna, Scherzer. So those are really the 4 big guys that they brought in besides the minor league moves and maybe some bullpen moves down the line. But they realized that, they don't really want to have what happened last year happen again this year. And they want, a lot of these guys, whether it's the guys on the team right now, like Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Jacob deGrom, to be able to just get along with these new guys and, not have any animosity in the clubhouse, because that's what really killed this team, I feel, majority to a percent last season. So really good that they're aware of it. Really, I guess 3 words if I were to describe, or I guess 3 sayings or 3 short sentences if I were to describe Billy Epler and Buck Showalter's joint press conference. I would say they definitely had a sense of urgency. They explained that, they have a lot of guys that are getting huge contracts and you don't want to waste that. They have guys that are getting up there in age, whether that's a Max Scherzer. I don't want to say DeGrom. DeGrom's 33, but I mean, hey, time flies. Why waste his prime? They realize that. Guys are soon going to be asking for a lot of money. So, they realize that they have a sense of urgency that, they have to start getting to the playoffs. I'm not saying, win the World Series right now. I'm saying, get above 500 and try to go for a wild card spot. Division spot would be awesome. Still questionable if you think if it's the Braves division or not. I mean, still wondering what's going on with the Phillies, Nationals and Marlins. Well, Marlins are close enough, but Nationals are still far away, it seems. They're in a rebuild. So, yeah, sense of urgency they really explained. Hopeful. Obviously, they seem really ambitious. So, yeah, I mean, though, I guess those are some important things to say. So that's really it with the press. That was really it with the press conference. Not really like anything big. I mean, who were to think that this is like the biggest topic and this is the biggest highlight? Pretty much what's going on with the Mets. But I mean, it really is. They really haven't been having much news. It was funny. I was like praying that they weren't going to say anyone's name because the lockout. I don't know if they would get in trouble or not, but I mean that would be quite funny, if I may say. The CBA meeting just recently wrapped up. They just had 2 meetings, one yesterday and one today. It was about 2 hours long for both of them, roughly. Obviously, no agreement was agreed on. Not really surprising. These things don't happen in the first 3 meetings or so. But they did have a couple key points that I do want to read off of, according to Jeff Passan on Twitter. So Jeff Passan tweeted out about an hour ago saying that labor talks are over. Here's what happened. So the first category is that MLB agreed to accept parameters of pre-arbitration bonus pool for top 30 wins above replacement players. And that the MLB Players Association is seeking $105 million, where the owners are doing $10 million. So that's quite a big, large margin there. So I mean that's a little silly in my opinion. That they're way far apart. The second thing is that MLB offered a minimum raise to $615,000, and that the Players Association wants $775,000. And then obviously the MLB withdrew offer to change the arbitration structure. So those are a couple key points on what went on. Obviously, it seems that they're making progress. Obviously, we knew this wasn't going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a day. But I think it's really, really interesting that they're getting together in back-to-back days. When are they going to meet next? I don't know. Yesterday, they said that they were going to meet today. Unfortunately, we do not get the luxury of knowing when they're going to meet next. But in terms of it, you're going to want to get a little bit of a heads-on, with starting to meet. With spring training constantly, being spoken about right now. It's very annoying because I have it personally. I'm attending 2 spring training games as of right now. I'm going to attend, I believe it's on the 27th of February. I'm going to be attending the Astros and Mets game at Port St. Lucie with the 7 line and a lot of other great Mets fans. And then I'm also going to a Mets and Washington Nationals right here in West Palm Beach to a spring training game there, I believe, on the 2nd. So, obviously, it's be unfortunate, one of my first big spring trainings. It'd be unfortunate if it does get delayed. But realistically, I personally most likely see spring training get delayed. I know that they came out the report saying that the Players Association is willing to lose games for the Major League season. But I just think if you look at it, I mean, that would just look so terrible in the narrative of baseball, is that you have back-to-back seasons with there just being overall uncertainty of baseball even being played. And it's just really unfortunate. I think as of right now, they did say there's a 60% chance that the league is going to start on time, which means there's a 40% chance it won't. So, I mean, I'll take the percent is much higher, and it surpasses it not starting on time. But, we'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, these are very stressful issues. I think most of us knew that it wasn't going to be this easy. But yeah, overall, I just think majority of the narrative, I guess, is agreeing with the Players Association. So regardless of what the owners really want, I really just question how much of it are they going to get? Because pretty much all the fans are pretty much on side with the Players Association. Regardless of who the commissioner is, everyone hates Rob Manfred. So I don't think they're going to agree with anything that they want. So yeah, overall, I mean, I'm really hoping that they can try and work something out. That's all we can wait and do, I guess. So that's really all I got. I guess we'll go over. You guys have any comments, questions, and concerns? Do not hesitate. Please feel free to drop it below. I'm going to briefly check Twitter and I guess see if anything's new. Yeah, let's see if anything is new on Twitter. We do know that they are going to possibly. No, we do know that they are announcing the Hall of Fame voters today. So that is really interesting. We'll see who makes it. We know that there's some big guys on there: Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, David Ortiz. Those are just a couple. Andrew Jones, great defensive jewel right there. So we'll see who gets voted in. Hopefully next stream we can talk about that because I think the results come in at 4 or 5. So I don't know if I'll be live by then. So we will see. What's going on, everyone? Alexander, Kobe, Talking Mets with Rob, Nick, Trey, Ibindos, John, Devin, Kobe, Sean, what's going on? Jed, what's going on? Cal with our first question of the day. What's going on, Cal? Cal says, will Taiwan Walker be able to sustain success over a full season? So, yeah, that's a good question, and I think that's overall a really good question. Pretty much last season that Walker was coming into a season where he's only pitched, I think it was 20 to 30 innings in 2 years. He was obviously injured with the Diamondbacks. He had his fair share of injuries with the Diamondbacks. He had his fair share of injuries with the Mariners. And I guess when the Mets signed him, they pretty much knew that he was going to be an injured guy. We saw he really played well in the first half. He pounded the strike zone well. His fastball was looking sharp. He was giving you 6 to 7 solid innings of baseball per day. And unfortunately, the second half came. I mean, it really wasn't until the All-Star game when Mike Zunino took him deep. And he pretty much just looked terrible. I don't want to say terrible, but he didn't look like his original self. And overall, I really questioned it. I was hoping that it was just, him being fatigued, and I think it is. I think Walker's a great pitcher. He got barreled a lot in the second half. He got tired. It happens. But I'm hoping, he's going to work with Hefner, try and, see if he could change something up mechanically so he doesn't get tired during games and throughout the season. But hopefully, he could definitely be a reliability on this team. If, you could throw him in that 4th spot, maybe even 5th spot, depending on how much depth the Mets go after for the rest of the offseason. So it'll be really interesting. But overall, I think he will be able to have success over a full season. I mean, we'll see, but I'm most confident he will. Talking Mets with Rob says 7 line. Let's hope the lockout ends. Absolutely, yes. We will both be at the 7 line. We will both be at the opening day spring training game in Port St. Lucie against the Astros with the 7 line. So fingers crossed. Trey says, I thought Epler would be good, but he's impressed me. He made many good offers and made many good moves. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when the Mets first got Epler, I was like, okay, maybe there's not a whole lot to think about with this guy. Realistically, I had mixed feelings. He was coming off, executive timing, I guess you could say, with the Angels. And I guess the Angels really didn't have the best executive office, whether that was not signing pitchers, whether that was, really anything for the most part. They just really did not have a good track record. And I guess a lot of people figured Epler would be associated with that. However, I think it's for the most part is that, I don't know who the owner is for the Angels, but I just don't think they were really ambitious with spending money. So luckily, I guess that isn't the case now. I don't know what the Angels are going to do ahead. That's their problem. They're going after pitching, it seems. They signed a couple guys. Syndergaard, Lou, re-signed Iglesias, Lorenzen from the Reds, I believe, Michael Lorenzen. So, they're making some moves. So, we'll have to see, I guess, really what the Angels are, I guess, in store for the most part. So, we'll see. And, yeah, of course, the Mets. Kobe says, was 2021 a fluke for James McCann? Great question. So, yeah, obviously, for the most part, I guess coming into this season, obviously one of my first videos on this channel that I made was if the Mets should sign James McCann. And, I did state, if you guys go back and watch that, I did state that One, I guess, negative thing about James McCann is that he was never a full-time catcher. He was a part-time catcher, splitting time with Yasmani Grandal out in Chicago, and then he was an alternate catcher in Detroit going back much years prior. So I did show some worrisome when it came to signing McCann. Not so much him as a player, but if he'll just be fatigue. In terms of the season, offensively, he was not good. He had one of the highest ground ball percentages in baseball. The XBA and him were not friends at all. He didn't even know what that was in the dictionary. They just did not have a good season for the most part. McCann and XBA and just getting the ball off the ground. He had a couple clutch moments. I mean, obviously Cincinnati, that one in the Subway Series was pretty solid. But pretty much for the most part, really rough season. Defensively, his defensive metrics were not as planned, whether it was the frame rate. They were saying that he is in the same category as JT Realmuto, and obviously that was not even the case. I mean, he called a fair game. I'll give him that. He called a fair game behind the plate. He was able to work with some of his pitchers, and I'll give him that. There were a lot of new pitchers, whether it was bringing in Robert Stock for a game or, calling up a guy from AAA, Steven Agosic, whether some random guy for an inning or two. He was really able to work with the pitcher quickly. Obviously, yes, it probably wasn't the first time him catching. I'm sure he maybe had a couple or so maybe innings, whether it was not so much innings, but minutes spent together before the game and in the bullpen. But I'll give McCann that. Realistically, do I think he's going to be what he is hoped to be? Do I think he'll be an all-star? No. He was an all-star because the AL in 2019, besides Grandal, Maldonado, maybe Sanchez if you count him back then, who else did they really have in the AL? And besides Salvador Perez, so not really. Do I think it was a fluke? No. Maybe to an extent. Do I think he'll ever be his 2019? No, never 2019 self. Maybe his average, those basic slash lines, OPS, maybe they can go up a little bit. Maybe defensively he can get a little bit better. But we'll see. Christopher, what's going on? He says, howdy, long time no see. I'm back for the year now after hiatus. What's going on, Christopher? I missed you, bro. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you tuning into the stream, bud. Sports fan, what's going on? Sports fan says, if the two sides continue to make proposals, a deal will be reached. It is hoped that sides realize spring training is a deadline date, not the beginning of the season. Yeah, no, that's a good point you bring up there. Like I said, I think spring training is just the barrier, because that's when I think either one of the sides are going to budge. And I don't know if they're going to give up on one thing to give leverage, but one of the sides are going to have to bust sooner rather than later, whether it's the Players Association or the owners. I think it's probably going to be the owners, because you're going to lose more money if you're not playing. We know that a lot of teams last season stated that if 2021 were to start late due to COVID and stuff, that they would lose so much money not having fans in the stands. They would lose so much money, and that half of these teams, whether it be the Rays, whether it be the Diamondbacks, whether it be a low-end market team to an extent, they don't know how much they could survive. So I think that could also apply to this year. I mean, last year, I think full attendance in most stadiums started, I want to say probably June. I think it's probably that for Citi Field, I believe. So we'll see. Trace says LFGM, absolutely, man. Kobe says, as of right now, where do you think the Mets rotation stands in the league? So in the whole league. So, I mean, you got the Dodgers rotation. I don't know. Let's Google some top. Let's Google, I don't know. What are we Googling? We want to Google maybe top best MLB pitching rotations. I don't know. I mean, if you were to ask me, I think it really depends when you were to ask me. Best MLB pitching rotations. So, I mean, obviously, as of right now, I guess the Mets rotation would consist of Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Taiwan Walker, Carlos Carrasco, and I guess in that fifth spot, you could argue David Peterson, or Tyler McGill. So do I think that is a top 3 rotation? Possibly. But as of right now, I mean, let's see what they had for 2021. So 2021 obviously was a bit different. You had the Dodgers And the Dodgers had Kershaw, Bauer, Buehler, Urias, Price, May, and Goslin. So that's not bad. Second was the Padres when there was that whole debate over, both of those teams having a juggernaut of I guess, a rotation. Unfortunately for the Padres, it didn't really help out. Padres had a slow start with Yu Darvish and Blake Snell, and I guess that really didn't apply. Dodgers, on the other hand, had a pretty good, season with the exclusion of Bauer and that whole incident. He played pretty well. Maybe after the spider tack thing, the barrels and the long ball kind of killed him a little bit. But, I don't really think their rotation was that horrific. Coming in at the number 3 spot, they had the Yankees. You had Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber, Jameson Taillon, Jordan Montgomery, Domingo Germán. And then you had your 6 and 7, Garcia and Severino. Obviously, Garrett Cole in the second half struggled a little bit. Corey Kluber had his injury spree. Jameson Taillon was honestly pretty solid. You had the Nationals. Obviously, it's not that the case anymore. You lost Scherzer. Corbin isn't really his old self, I guess. Strasburg is hurt. You lost Lester. And then you had the Mets. And they had, obviously, DeGrom, Carrasco, Stroman, Walker, Lucchesi, Peterson, Syndergaard. You lost Stroman, you lost Syndergaard. So that, you had the Braves. That's not bad. So now let's look at this season. So the Mets pretty much were top 5 last season, exactly at the 5th spot. So now comes into question is who exactly would it be this year? So this is history. Yeah, I don't want history. I want 2022. So, or are they not going to give me 2022? Best pitching rotations for 2022. Then usually they make a list, but it's hard with free agency. Like, not many pitchers have signed. So that's kind of the big issue. And of course it's going to block me. I don't know. I want to answer it, but it's hard right now with the lockout and who signed. So I'm gonna have to come back to that question, to be honest, Kobe. If you want to ask me that, when things start to pick up and free agents sign, go right ahead, because there's so many guys. You have Kershaw on the market, you have Rodon in the market. If the Mets sign 1 or 2 more of those guys, that could definitely inflate obviously some of these percentages for, I guess, whatever team we're focusing on. Talking Mets with Rob says they keep meeting 2 days in a row. Progress was made. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's obviously much bigger progress than what we've been seeing. I'm down to that. Like I said, hopefully they just have 2 or 3 meetings a week. I don't want them to have meetings. I don't want the next meeting to be 2 weeks from now. I'm hoping they could try and have maybe 2 or 3 every 10 days. That'd be nice. But I don't know. I don't know how certain that is that's actually going to happen. Seems that they're willing to meet, so that's progress. Trey says, I thought Stroman was going to overvalue himself with his contract. He did not, and I was a little disappointed. But we wound up with Scherzer, so I can't be mad. Yeah, absolutely, man. When the Mets lost when the Mets lost Stroman a little bit, I was like, all right, so now it's a little rough. So now it pretty much comes to the point is where you really got to go out and get someone, whether that would have been a Max Scherzer, whether that would have been a Carlos Rodon, whether that would have been a trade with the A's for Bassett, Manaea. That's really what it came down to. Luckily, the Mets were fortunate. They got Scherzer. Overall, in terms of re-signing Stroman, do I think there's more pros or more cons? To be honest with you, I think there's more pros. I really question how much of a Cy Young self he's still going to be. I think he's a fair pitcher. Don't get me wrong. But in Toronto, we really got the same production. They really got the same production from him for all of his time over there for the most part. It really was until his free agent year where he really broke out, his contract year. We saw how the clubhouse was this season. We saw his Twitter rants. I just think that was completely unacceptable. To be going after, guys like Keith Hernandez, keep your mouth shut, dude. I may not agree with what some of these guys say, whether it's for a social reason or what they think about the game, but I keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to be running on Twitter, saying, "Oh, Keith Hernandez is a clown," and yada yada yada, or whatever else he said about Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez is an 11-time Gold Glove. He had a career over 120 OPS plus. I mean, once you can get there and beat him, then you could talk. But yeah, overall, just completely foolish with how Stroman acted this season. Personally, I think it was very foolish, very selfish, and I just think that shouldn't be tolerated. And you know what? Listen, he's no longer a Met. There's nothing I could do. I give him the best of luck in Chicago. I'll be going to a couple Cubs games. Actually, I'm doing a road trip. I will be talking about that a little bit more down the line. But I think I will be seeing him there. So we will see how that goes. Marco, what's going on? Marco says, hey, when the lockout ends, players will have a short period of time to sign, so they will be signing left and right. That's going to be an electric. Yeah, absolutely, man. It is going to be electric. And I think what's really interesting is that, well, that's a good point you bring that up. I necessarily don't know if they even would still postpone spring training because of, like, let's say the lockout ends next week. It's not going to, but let's say it ends next week, or no, let's say it ends in 2 weeks, which it's not going to, but let's say that happens. I still think they're going to have to delay spring training a little bit because guys need to sign. I mean, you can't give, 2 weeks or 3 weeks for guys to have spring training. We saw it in 2020 and it was terrible. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's a good point you bring up there, Marco. CJ, what's going on, buddy? He says Mets should bring back Familia. Yeah, I'm a little bit iffy on that. To be honest, if it's a cheap deal, I mean, when it comes to the money, I can care less because, I mean, most relievers are majority of the time on cheap deals, and relievers are so streaky, you can't really trust them to an extent so much, unless, of course, you're a Hendricks or Hader. If the Mets were to bring him back, it'd be a short-term deal, and I would really limit it. I mean, I don't know how much he'd accept an option in there, but I'd really limit the hype on him. He had a good first half. I'll give him that. Otherwise, I feel Mets fans, and not really including myself, but Mets fans wanted this dude gone even when he was off the team. And that makes no sense, I know. There were just so many times and so many games throughout the Mets history that he played that he would just come in and just blow the lead when it was least suspected. This season, for example, I believe you're a Cardinals fan, CJ. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it was that one game where it was at Citi Field, and I think the Mets were above the Cardinals. I want to say 3-2 or 3-1. I forgot who it was. It may have been Arenado. I really don't remember much. Whatchamacallit. And then I forgot who it was. He had a 3-run homer. It's just the least expected times that he comes in. He just comes in. He loses commands in his fastball. He loses command of the zone. He'll go for a 4-0 count, hit a guy behind the plate. McCann has to run for it. Oh, that's runners on second and third. I don't know. I just really worry how much Familia. Like I said, if it's a cheap deal, I wouldn't be against it, but I just wouldn't value him very highly. Cal says Mets should trade prospects Matt Allen, Brett Baty, JT Ginn, and Alex Ramirez. That's a lot. And Alex Ramirez for Matt Chapman and Frankie Montas. So you're trading away Allen, and then you're trading away Ginn. So that's 2 pitchers right there that are gone. And then you would have Ramirez, arguably infielder, and then Baty, another infielder. So that would leave you with Mauricio. I'm going to decline that. I would, if you're throwing Mauricio in there instead of Baty, I would do it. Just because Mauricio is shortstop, and you have shortstop locked down for the next 10 years. So unless Mauricio is going to be playing outfield, which he's young. I think he's like 20, 21. So he definitely has time to go out there. But I mean, learning a new position is a little hard, when you're that close and that far in your minor league career going into the major leagues. So I would decline that deal, Cal, just because I would really feel skeptical about giving up Matt Allen. Brett Baty. I understand, yes, you would get Matt Chapman, and Matt Chapman is how old? Matt Chapman is 28, so that's prime age. So I think what you really would be questioning is, are you focusing on the short term for the Mets third base or the long term? I guess Chapman would still be a long term. If you want a short term, you're going for a guy like Donaldson, I guess. But I mean, Brett Baty, I would arguably say he is ready in at least 2 years, maybe 2023, I guess. He could be called up at that September. That'd be nice. But I'm going to decline that. Maybe if you throw Mauricio in there, maybe you get like AJ Puck or something in return. I could maybe see something like that. Matt Allen, yeah, I mean, he did have Tommy John, but I mean, what minor league pitcher hasn't? Jacob deGrom. Ranting New York Rangers, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. CJ says, what do the Cardinals do? Well, to be honest, what have the Cardinals done this offseason? St. Louis Cardinals, what have they done this offseason? I believe they signed someone, but maybe I didn't. Lars Nootbaar. Oh, yeah, that's a name. What have they done? Trading Paul DeJong to the Yankees? That's interesting. They haven't really done anything. To be honest, maybe some pitching depth would be nice. I mean, I'm not an expert on your guys' farm system, so I don't know how much you guys have. But I mean, in terms of the Cardinals, I guess rotation moves would be nice. I mean, let's look at the starting pitching. I mean, I believe they had one of the oldest rotations in baseball this past season, and yeah, so we'll see. I mean, as of right now, the rotation stands: Adam Wainwright, Jack Flaherty, Steven Matz, Dakota Hudson, Jake Woodford, and Miles McCullough. Oh yeah, Steven Matz. How can I not know about that? Duh. So Steven Matz signing, I mean, I don't know how much of a Matt expert you guys are, if you guys are Mets fans. The Steven Matz, he's a nice lefty. I mean, he beats up on himself a lot, I will tell you that. He does get a little like that on the mound. If he loses command of the zone or something, or if he gives up a home run, he'll, kind of like what, to an extent, a lot of rookies have been known to do in the past. But in terms of that, I think Steven Matz can definitely be a fair pitcher. I mean, I really do like his arsenal of pitches. I mean, how he mixes up his pitching a lot, whether it's the sinker and the changeup combination, is pretty good. He had a solid season with the Blue Jays. I mean, obviously they gave him offensive production, which was the biggest thing. But I mean, in terms of looking at him, when I guess he was with the Mets, I mean, obviously I think he stopped his fastball for the most part. I believe his last year with the Mets, or second to last year with the Mets. But just 2020, I mean, was just a terrible year for him. I mean, he just struggled so terribly with locating the zone, with the barrels, with just contact, hard or soft, and they put him in a bullpen role, and he just still struggled. Obviously, that narrative changed with Toronto, and simply enough, an analysis is I just think he plays better in smaller cities. I just think that he will perform much better in a smaller city, like Toronto, like St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis, I think, is a great franchise. I mean, I'll give the Cardinals that. They have one of the best fan bases. I mean, I don't ever hear them booing or being annoying like me or Mets fans, I guess. But I'll give them that. They really are a good fan base out there. And I think it's a great place to have a career. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. Maybe they'll get Albert Pujols back for a year, maybe for his last year or two. We'll see. That'd be kind of symbolic. That'd be nice. Some rotation depth would be nice because, I mean, you got Wainwright. We'll see how much more years he has left. Some rotation depth would be nice. The bullpen's not too bad. Alex Reyes was pretty nice. Unfortunately, blew it in the wild card. But yeah, I mean, Cardinals, they have a lot of good moves. It's also hard with NL Central, too, because, I mean, you look at it right now. I mean, Cubs are rebuilding, so I wouldn't be worried about the Cubs. You got the Brewers, yeah. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, Yelich could have a huge bounce back year. Their pitching depth is strong. Brewers need some bats, though, I've noticed. Their pitching can't carry it fully. Showed that in the playoffs. So you got the Brewers, I guess, competition. So really only competition you got, I guess, are the Brewers. I mean, if the Reds trade away Castellanos, I really question possibly Gray and Castillo, too. We'll see what they do. But I guess really the only competition the Cardinals got, I guess, are Reds and Brewers. Marco, what's going on? Marco says, I hope Steve signs Rodon. Absolutely. I did upload a video in regards to that yesterday, so if you guys would like to check that out, please feel free. Sports fan, what's going on? Sports fan says, do you think the Mets have enough rotation depth? Well, as of right now, I mean, you can never have enough depth, and we saw last season how urgent rotation depth was. But in terms of right now, I think the Mets have a fair amount. Still questionable with DeGrom's health, with the age of Scherzer. You have Walker still questionable if he's going to get tired and fatigue. Still questionable what's going on with Carrasco, his first inning struggles. I mean, Joey Lucchesi is not going to start the season on time due to Tommy John surgery. Tyler Mcgill, hopefully he'll be fine. We got roughed up in the second half, had an elite first half. And then David Peterson, obviously, we'll see. Hopefully he doesn't continue his sophomore slump from 2021. But in terms of the rotation depth, I know I kind of just bashed the whole rotation there, but no, I mean, those are minor things to an extent for some of those guys. You have DeGrom, elite. You have Scherzer, elite. You have Walker, somewhat so. I don't want to say he's elite or good yet because I want to see if he could play if the innings pitched is going to hurt him. Carrasco, still so. Mcgill, hopefully he doesn't have a sophomore slump. In terms of depth, I think they have enough for the most part. Unless they have another 2021 with injuries, then I think they're screwed. But I don't think that'll be the case again. I would say they have enough depth. Absolutely. Yes, sir, Rob. Yes, sir. Elliot says, does Robinson Cano prevent the Mets from signing Kyle Schwarber? Financially, yeah, you would have to eat up, what is it? I think it's 40 to 80 million of Cano's contract. But you could put him as DH. Because think about it, if the Mets were to get Schwarber, he may as well be a DH because defensively, he is not very good. In the outfield, if you look at his stats, the OAA is low. The defensive runs saved is, I think, in the negatives, as well as the UZR. So in terms of, I guess, overall bringing in Schwarber, it would be in the DH. And what does that mean for Cano? What do you do with Cano? Would you rather have Cano out playing second base or, I mean, being a bench bat, I think that could be a possibility. I mean, although would you pay a bench bat, that much money? I mean, some cases, I guess we're going to have to see that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to prevent it. I mean, it really just depends how much, I guess, you're willing to give Schwarber. I don't know. What was his contract just now? I think for like 75. Also, yeah, I don't think it'll prevent it. Larry Love, what's going on? Larry says, would love to get Rodon. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rodon would be, in my opinion, a great fit for this team. But like I kind of did say, is whatchamacallit, in the past. I don't know why I said that. So what I would say is that in the past, we know that the left-handed presence in the bullpen was very limited. And I guess the Mets pretty much are trying to search for some type of remedy to get lefties. And I think as of right now, the Mets, they didn't really have that much this offseason so far. I mean, they lost Loop, lefty, that's a big bump in that bullpen. But we're talking about the rotation. Some people say, okay, having a lefty and a righty, that shenanigans that Rojas pulled last season doesn't matter as much in the rotation. It's more the bullpen. I kind of disagree with that because, you'll get some lineups out there in Major League Baseball that don't put up as good numbers against lefties as they do for righties. The Mets, for a perfect example, last season. I couldn't really tell you any teams off the top of my head that would fit that description. But I really just, I think that's always important to have. So yeah, I mean, overall, I guess we'll have to see how that goes. Like I said, he's a lefty. That's good. He has that nice fastball, changeup, and slider combination. Very good. Overall, yeah, really no major complaints with Rodon. The only big issue I do have is the contract. Rodon stated that he would like 4 to 5 years, and I worry about giving a dude who has been known to be injury-prone in the past that much money. So a little bit worrisome about that, so we're going to have to see. Joe, what's going on? Joe says, nice thing about Epler is he comes across as a professional, unlike previous GMs who made, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he looks very professional from what I've noticed. I mean, I didn't really know super much about him with the Angels, but he seems to be professional, and fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong. Kobe says, do you think spring training will start on time? Probably not. I think it'll be delayed maybe a week or so. Trey says, should the Mets sign Matt Harvey to a minor league deal? Honestly, nah. I mean, yeah, I get it. If he's willing to take it, yeah, it may not be the worst thing in the world, but why waste room on the 40-man roster for a guy who you would just get more of a tragic experience out of? I mean, we saw the downfall of Matt Harvey was horrendous with the Mets. I don't want to live it again. LFGM, absolutely. Elliot says Barry Bonds, Hall of Famer. Yeah, so I'm kind of 50-50 with Bonds being a Hall of Famer. So I guess the pro argument of it, I guess, is it was rumored that he started taking steroids. So it would have been like 1998, 1999 is when he rumored to take steroids. So that's when he allegedly started. What comes into question is, or I guess what comes into play is that the 6 or 7 or 8 years before he started allegedly taking steroids, he put up elite numbers. Let's look at some of the stats. Barry Bonds stats. So we'll look at everything before 1998 and we'll see how many years that was. So we'll go to reference. So go to reference. So 1998. So he was an all-star for pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 years before 1998. He led the league in on-base percentage, OPS plus, OPS, slugging, walks, which I guess is okay, runs. He led the basic slash line in 3 years in a row, which is not easy to do. Back-to-back MVP, or 3 years for MVP before allegedly taking steroids. But I guess the problem is he took it. And why would you take it if you're putting up that good numbers? He went from hitting 46, 34, 33, 37, 33, 37 home runs to hitting 45, 46, 73, 49, 50. So that's pre and post steroid use. So I guess an argument you could make is he was putting up Hall of Fame numbers before the steroid usage, but unfortunately he took it. You could make an argument that MLB was coming off of the lockout in 1994, and some guys, including himself, like Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, saved the game of baseball. Make that argument. The con argument is that he took steroids, he cheated. I play baseball. I play baseball from 1st to 11th grade. And what really, I guess, pisses me off is that I obviously never had plans to play in college or, I was just doing it for high school. It's fun. Why not? What I guess really came to be annoying is that I really hate when people cheat at sports. Whether it's the Astros cheating scandal or whether it's, I'm not even talking more much that, just more personal use. Whether it's to enhance your ability to play the game physically. Really pisses me off. It really does. Because it's, I believe you play by the game. You play by the books. And it's really exasperating. It really is. So, honestly, do I think he'll get it? Probably not. But I think, honestly, they're just going to put him in. They'll make some committee and put him in and just say, oh, he's so good. Oh, he has the most home runs. Oh, he has this. And they'll just put him in. And, that's fine. Joe says, if Carrasco has a bounce-back season and Walker can stay healthy, oh, absolutely, 100%. What's going on, Jackson? CJ says if Steven Matz can build what he did in Toronto, the Cardinals. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Cal says everyone is talking pitching, but how about Keuchel? He was good in 2020, but isn't his old Cy Young type. The Mets could go after him if Rodon doesn't work out. Keuchel, I agree. Keuchel is not his Cy Young self anymore. But I think being realistic with you, I think there could be a possibility. I don't know. Personally, I don't really think the Mets would ever go after Keuchel, to be honest with you. I don't see it. Trey says, do you attend a lot of Met games? To an extent. I attended 3 Met games last season, all in Miami when the Mets came into town. In 2020, I'm going to a Reds game, Reds and Brewers. I'm going to 2 Cubs and Padres games, Tigers and Blue Jays games, allegedly 2 spring training games, and I'll probably go to a couple Mets and Marlins games this year. So I'm hoping I could at least go to 10 games this season, maybe 3 or 4 of those being the Mets. CJ says Shane Bieber, Frankie, yeah. Also not bad. The Mets have a good relationship with Cleveland right now. We know that they traded for Carrasco. Shane Bieber, you would have to give up a lot more though. And we're talking. You're talking to Mauricio and Vientos possibly together. Sports fan says DeGrom, Scherzer, and Kershaw 1, 2, 3 in the rotation is scary. But being healthy, absolutely. Being healthy is pretty much the biggest thing for the Mets. And I know it's a cheap saying, but it's true. There were so many games last year where the Mets were out there, and I mean, when you have an outfield of Tovar, Khalil Lee, and like Mason Williams and that stuff, that's not really that good. That's a little worrisome. So I mean, we're really just gonna have to see, I guess, where that stands ahead. I would have re-signed Stroman and asked. Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. It's the highest average annual value for a pitcher in MLB history. I get it. Obviously, Bauer took the credit for that, and I'm not going to say much about that. I guess he kind of did. But I guess it really just comes to the age. It's a 3-year deal. He's 37, 36. My worry is that when we get into the second half of the second year and the third year, the first year I'm not so much worried about. Joe says, do you think Manfred realizes how much being commissioner hurts the brand of baseball? Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Regardless if it was Manfred, I still think people would hate on him. I mean, people shit talked. The hell was the guy's name before Manfred? Damn it, I had a brain fart. MLB commissioner. Who was it before Manfred? Shit. Bud Selig. My apologies. Yeah, Bud Selig. Regardless, I just feel people would still honestly just crap on them. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how that goes, I guess. I still cannot. Yeah, 43 million AAV is quite a lot. Trace says, I can't wait for the young guys, Alvarez, Beatty, to come up in a few years. Absolutely, yeah. Cheap deal, absolutely. Yes, it was. Yes, I do remember that. 2-run. Marco says, it stinks that owners want expanded playoffs. I want the Mets to make the playoffs with 5 teams. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's really how it should be. Obviously, for the most part, that's how it's been for most of the time now. And, for 14 teams, it's way too much in a division. Not for a division, for both divisions, 30 teams. And that's way too much. No signing Familia, so we'll punish. Yeah, I mean, that's really, I guess, where it comes to. Would you rather get a high-end reliever, or would you rather get a guy like Familia? Yeah, he's cheap. It doesn't hurt. But I just obviously wouldn't put as much value on him as I guess they did in the past. Not so epic gamer, what's going on? He says, thoughts on the Blue Jays signing so far. So let's see what they've done this offseason so far. So I was about to say Springer, but I was like, no, that was last offseason. Oh yeah, Kevin Gosman. Yeah, Gosman was honestly a pretty good signing in my opinion. You lost Barrios. No, you didn't. Did I lose Barrios? It's been so long, Jesus. I don't even remember anything. Barrios, Blue Jays. Did they lose him? Yes or no? Barrios is. So yeah, it was an extension, right? So obviously the extension of they extended Barrios. That's right. So the extension of Barrios was good in my opinion because I mean you gave up a lot for him, so that would have sucked to have a rental for giving up that much. So good that they re-signed Barrios. Obviously finished in the Cy Young contending ship. Obviously they lost Robbie Ray, so that also is another big thing. You brought in Kevin Gosman, had an astonishing season this year in San Francisco. Really mechanically looked really present. Overall, I mean, fair season. I mean, their bats are there. I think they'll just need more pitching depth. Still questionable. I mean, they have a nice rotation, it seems. I mean, I really liked Alek Manoah this season. He looked pretty solid. Hopefully, he could have a big year next year. Especially when Hinge and Ryu had a struggle. I mean, you have Jose Barrios. Hinge and Ryu, you have Ross Stripling, you have Nate Pearson. Maybe we'll see if he'll be in a bullpen role. You have Anthony Kay, possibly bullpen role or starter. So honestly, pretty fair. Like I said, offensively, they're there. I mean, Vlad, Bo Bichette, I mean, they're there. Gurriel Jr., they're there. Someone get Canoa steroids. We need him ready for the season. Oh, no, Trey. Come on. Alexander says, great content. Keep doing. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Mets should use Lucchesi out of the bullpen. Well, yeah, I think that's what they were mainly doing. They were really putting him in as a longer reliever, giving him at least 2-3 innings, and he's capable of that. Nasty windup, by the way. But I think he'll definitely be that 7th starter in the rotation. So he's obviously a bullpen role. When is he coming back? I believe May or June. Between Mcgill and Peterson, I mean, Both of those guys, I think, for the most part, were rushed through the minor leagues. They were both rushed. That's been established. They were both rushed really quickly because of injuries for both of them. Mcgill has less innings pitched, and Peterson has less time in the minor league. So I guess it really comes down to who would you want. I guess Mcgill, as of right now, besides the stronger mentality, we saw more innings pitched out of him. We saw more maturity out of him mechanically in situations. But then if you make the argument for Peterson, it's a lefty. But is that really going to be my biggest argument? Mcgill has one thing that can't be taught: composure. He is older than his years. That is true. A lot of the Mets minor leaguers, especially the pitchers, when they make their rookie debut, they are much older. So that is a good point you bring up there. The composure is a big thing. I agree. Kobe says, I have a 20-game membership season planned for the Mets game, so I hope, that would be unfortunate. Hopefully they don't. I don't think they will. Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, injuries are tough. Bonds should be in it. GJ says, if Bonds is in the Hall of Fame, so should McGuire. I agree. Trey says, Brett Baty being a 13. Trey says, great to see Brett Baty being the number 1 third base prospect in baseball. Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that is really good to see. So yeah, really good to see. And obviously we've got a ton of LFGMs. Appreciate it. So we're probably going to call it a stream here. If you guys do have, I guess, any more comments, if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate. Feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I guess please feel free to drop it in the comment section below. If you're watching this stream on replay, or if you're rewatching this back, kudos to you. Thank you. It's been about an hour or so. I usually like to keep these streams around that time. I guess we're going to have to see what goes on with the lockout. Obviously, things are I guess, looking a little bit better. I guess we're just going to have to see how that goes. It's really all. I did upload a video yesterday in regards to 3 guys that the New York Mets could possibly go after. So please feel free to check that out. Please feel free to check that video out. Give that video a like. Give that video a comment. Subscribe. Otherwise, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel already, please feel free to do so. Hit that like button. Turn on those post notifications. Tell your friends about this channel. Otherwise, I guess we'll probably call a stream here. Mets should consider. Sonny Gray is also a guy. CJ, if you are interested in some guys the Mets should sign, definitely check out that video. You would definitely, hopefully, enjoy that. And so guys, definitely check out that video. I know content has been kind of, I don't want to say dry, but I mean, the streams haven't had, the streams have been more just, viewer questions and Q&As and stuff. And it's tough right now. There's really nothing to talk about. Like, I get it. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes ahead. Otherwise, we will see how that goes. I appreciate everyone for tuning in today's stream. We'll let it run on for, I guess, another more minute, get to a full hour. We're at the 59-minute mark. I would like to get to that. Otherwise, LFGM, everyone. Like I said, give this video a like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully spring training can start. I'm supposed to be going to a couple spring training games. So that would definitely be unfortunate if that does not happen. That would be really upsetting to me. Otherwise, I guess we will have to see how that goes. Otherwise, I guess that is it for me, everyone. Appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys have been doing phenomenal with the questions, comments, and concerns these last couple streams. I'll probably be doing a stream probably within the next week or so. I'm doing these streams mostly weekly for the most part, just because there's not much to talk about. But once things start to pick up, whether it's with the lockout and free agency starting again, I will definitely maybe do some more streams. I definitely do like these streams. And otherwise, I guess that's it for me. Appreciate everyone for tuning in, LFGM or whatever other team you support, of course. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.